Joining us right now to talk a little bit more about this is David Joyce, Seaport Research Partners Senior Analyst. And David, ultimately, when you take a look at where David Ellison is nudging this company, and I was looking through the shareholder letter, he kind of does sort of chart a path for at least what content looks like, more importantly. And I'm curious if you think that content strategy translates into actual revenue growth.
Well, I think they do have to populate their services, especially Paramount Plus, with more theatrical and episodic content. So that's really the vision is you have to build it, and hopefully they will come. That was part of the strategy for paying up for UFC rights and making that part of the Paramount Plus without having to pay for a pay-per-view pay through. So I think the commentary about trying to accelerate the content production is something that should be well received by the industry, even though on the other side of that, you do have a lot of headcount reduction as part of their synergies. But this, you do have to differentiate with content. You need more scale in the content because the scale side of the question mark on will this work is really what's driving the overall industry consolidation theme.
And when they talk about the potential cost savings, they point out that some of those cost savings are going to be actually reinvested back into the business, including more than $1.5 billion next year into their DTC properties like UFC, Paramount Plus, Originals, et cetera, David. I am curious about sort of where you want Ellison to sort of push this company, because I know there's still a lot of talk about whether they do make a meaningful bid for Warner Brothers Discovery, or at least a bid that would actually be accepted by Zaslav. But the idea here that is this more of a content play, or do you think that they can sort of achieve what they need to do with what they already have?
I think this is a content play, but it's one that's going to evolve with new distribution outlets as they emerge, and that's the whole idea behind David Ellison being tech savvy and tied in with the technology side of what can facilitate the future entertainment. So they do need to drive up the amount of content they have, but they also have to be flexible in how they go about producing it and embrace new distribution methods. So I think that's this is the first step in David's opportunity to reinvent the company is redeploying the cost savings into more content and into embracing the new and future distribution models.
Well, when it comes specifically to Warner Brothers and whether or not Paramount acquires that company, we know that Netflix, Comcast, for example, also reported to have some interest here in Warner Brothers. And with that being said, I mean, does Paramount have the firepower, so to speak, if we were to enter into a potential bidding war? And do you think that that's something that they should enter into at all?
A few concepts are involved in answering that question. One is on the regulatory front. And this would not be, I think, problematic from an antitrust standpoint in terms of combining a couple of studios. If you looked at putting Comcast Universal together with Warner Brothers studio, that might be too big from a regulator's point of view. But Paramount and Warner Brothers, because Paramount's been a smaller studio, would probably not be problematic. Also, with the continuing decline in the cable networks business with cord cutting, putting the Warner Brothers Turner networks together with Paramount's also I don't think would be problematic because there are so many voices, so many outlets for people to access content. So I think that thinking of the potential deal structure, Paramount could be a one-stop shop for a Warner Brothers Discovery board to simplify everything, to put both aspects together, whereas a Comcast deal could involve some separate assets. Netflix is also said they just are interested in the studios and streaming side. So the question for the Warner Brothers board is what do we do with the cable networks in that instance? So I think that strategically and from a regulatory perspective, Paramount might have an upper hand. Financially, they could, but that could really rely on what David's father, Larry, decides to do. Could he take some of his Oracle shares and margin it, and that be a way that he keeps his control in Oracle and then can use that the cash as part of the compensation for Warner's deal. So I think that they could keep up with some of the other parties in terms of the financial firepower in doing such a deal.
All right, David, really appreciate your time. You take a look at Paramount shares up about 2.4% right now. That is David Joyce. He is Seaport Research Partners Senior Analyst.